believe it or not, when she doesn't call or message you for a long time, it means something deeper than you think. It's not always indifference. It's not always silence. Sometimes it's a signal from the universe, a sacred pause designed to awaken your inner strength. Type this in the comments if it resonates with you. Her silence taught me more than her words ever could. And if you're here to uncover the ancient wisdom buried beneath heartbreak and confusion, go ahead and tap the like button, not just for this video, but for the part of you that refuses to beg for attention again. Because this was not just a video about relationships. It's a message that may change the way you see love, loss, and silence itself. There comes a moment in every man's life when he waits for a message that never comes. Hours stretch into days. The screen stays dark. The mind spirals. And suddenly, her silence feels louder than any scream. But here's the mystery the Stoics understood long ago. Silence is never empty. It always carries a message. The question is, are you wise enough to listen? In this journey, we're not going to chase her. We're not going to decode emojis or reread old texts. We're going to do something far more powerful. We're going to awaken something ancient inside of you. The part that does not cling. The part that does not crumble. The part that watches the storm and remains still. You'll discover why her silence is a test, one the sages of old have faced in different forms. You'll understand how absence reveals not just her intentions, but your truth. And most of all, you'll learn why the Stoic path teaches us not to resist the void, but to walk through it with dignity, like a warrior of the soul. This isn't just about her not texting back. It's about reclaiming your peace, even in the deepest silence. Centuries before smartphones and instant messages, the ancient world knew the agony of unanswered hopes. In the Roman Empire, love letters etched in wax were left unread. Messengers returned with silence instead of replies. And yet even then, men sat under the stars, wondering what it meant when no message came. Was it rejection? Was it forgetfulness? Or was it something more profound? The Stoic philosophers who walked through marble halls and under olive trees faced this same ache. But unlike the modern mind that panics in absence, they saw silence as a sacred space, a divine mirror held up to the soul. Epictetus once taught, "It's not things that disturb us, but our judgment about them." Her silence, he would say, is not what wounds you. It's what you tell yourself about that silence that causes the suffering. In the silence, the Stoics found an opportunity, a chance to sever the chains of need. Need for validation, need for control, need to know. Marcus Aurelius, emperor of Rome and philosopher of the soul, endured betrayals, losses, and the absence of loved ones. And still, he wrote in his private meditations, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." He did not say, "If she doesn't write, panic." He did not say, "If she doesn't call, you are unworthy." Why? Because the silence of another person has no power over the soul that is rooted in itself. This philosophy was not born in lecture halls. It was forged in fire, through exile, death, abandonment. When the Stoics spoke of indifference to loss, they weren't advocating coldness. They were teaching emotional alchemy. They were showing how to transmute pain into power, silence into wisdom. In the East, the Taoists whispered similar truths. Those who flow as life flows know they need no other force. When she disappears, when the messages stop, this is not the time to chase. This is the time to become still enough to feel the current beneath the surface. We've forgotten this today. In a world of alerts, blue ticks, and red receipts, silence is interpreted as insult. But the ancients knew better. They knew that when another retreats, your reaction is a reflection, not of them, but of you. Why do we crumble when one person pulls away? Because we've built our peace on sand instead of stone. The Stoics teach us to shift our foundation inward, to realize that no external message can validate what is already whole, that your worth, your calm, your dignity are not up for negotiation in the marketplace of attention. And perhaps that's why this knowledge has faded, because in a culture built on urgency and desire, the idea of waiting, not with anxiety, but with strength, is radical. It is rebellion, and yet it is the path of the inner warrior. So what does it really mean when she doesn't call? When the silence stretches so long it begins to echo inside your chest? You might think it means she doesn't care, that she's moved on, that you were never enough. But that's only the story your wounded ego tells in the absence of clarity. The truth is often more layered, more mystical. In Stoicism, there's a teaching called apatheia, not apathy in the modern sense, but a state of inner equilibrium, unshaken by external events. To reach it, one must face discomfort without retreat. The silence from someone you long for is one of those tests, because sometimes her silence has nothing to do with you. Sometimes she is lost in her own storm. Sometimes she is waiting for you to awaken to who you are without her presence. And sometimes, most mystically, it is the universe removing her so you can finally hear your own soul speak. But here's the paradox. When you chase the echo, you lose yourself. When you anchor within, the truth finds you. Think of it like a river. If you try to grab water, it slips through your fingers. But if you sit at its edge, still and open, it brings what's meant for you. So the question isn't, why didn't she text? The question is, what am I being invited to feel, to know, to become in this space of silence? It's in this exact moment, when your mind screams for answers, that Stoic wisdom becomes your sword and shield. Instead of spiraling into nuttiness, ask, what part of me feels abandoned? Instead of begging for attention, say, what would Marcus Aurelius do in this moment? He would write in his journal. He would return to breath. He would watch the rising sun and remember that nothing external can disturb the fortress within. This is not about pretending you don't care. It's about becoming so anchored in your own essence that whether she calls or not, you remain whole. And this is where many fall into illusion. They believe detachment means numbness, that Stoicism is a cold heart behind stone walls. But that's not Stoicism, that's suppression. True Stoicism is warm, alive, observant. It feels deeply but doesn't cling. It loves fully but doesn't collapse. It sees the absence of a message not as rejection, but as a lesson in presence. The ancient mystics knew every silence is sacred, because in silence the divine speaks. When she doesn't call, it might mean she's gone, or it might mean you're being called by life itself to rise, not as someone waiting to be chosen, but as someone who has already chosen himself. And in that stillness, something shifts, not outside, but within. The need softens, the fear fades, and all that remains is clarity. Ready to explore what happens when we dive even deeper into the paradoxes, the hidden meanings, the forgotten truths. Now we go deeper, not into her mind, but into yours, into the unseen layers of what her silence truly activates within you. Because here's the secret the ancient Stoics understood, and one modern man often forgets. What disturbs you is not her silence. It's the mirror it holds up to your need. And need is the enemy of freedom. There's a sacred paradox in all of this. The more you need someone to respond, the less you are responding to your own soul. The more you seek answers outside, the more your inner compass spins out of control. Her silence is not just an absence of words. It's a cosmic challenge. Can you remain rooted when what you crave is withheld? Seneca, the Roman philosopher who mentored emperors, once said, "A gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials." And this moment of no message, no response, no closure, it is friction. It is your trial. Most men fail here. They spiral. They overthink. They reach out with trembling hands and shaky hearts, begging for a scrap of attention, a signal that they matter. But the Stoic man doesn't beg. He listens. He listens not to her silence, but to what his own silence reveals. Here's a forgotten truth. When she doesn't call, she may be testing your energy without even knowing it. There is something deeply biological, spiritual, even mythological in the feminine instinct. Sometimes she pulls back to see what echoes, and what she senses is not your message, but your essence. Do you radiate wholeness, or do you leak desperation? You see, nature respects stillness. The oak tree does not flinch when the winds howl. It does not uproot itself to chase after every drifting leaf. And you are meant to be that oak. Let her be the wind. Let her be the passing weather. But you must remain grounded. Even deeper still, the silence you feel from her may not be silence at all. It may be guidance. The universe, through her absence, may be removing distraction, creating a void so you can remember what it means to belong to yourself. This is ancient wisdom in almost every spiritual tradition, from the Hermetic teachings to the Zen monasteries. Silence is the portal to transformation. The desert monks of Egypt sought silence to confront their own shadows. The Stoics meditated in solitude not to escape the world, but to master their response to it. And you too are now in your own sacred desert, alone, waiting, listening. But remember this: in silence, the soul is not abandoned. It is awakened. You do not need to fill the gap. You do not need to fix the silence. You only need to stand still long enough for your higher self to rise from beneath the noise. When she doesn't message you, she is unknowingly giving you a sacred space to reclaim your power, to transmute longing into wisdom, to become not the one who waits, but the one who walks forward anyway. So breathe, watch, listen, don't flinch, because when you hold your center in the void, you become unforgettable. Not because she remembers you, but because you remember yourself. Now that we've seen the silence for what it truly is, not a punishment, but a portal, it's time to ask, what do we do with it? Philosophy without practice is like a sword still in its sheath, useless when the battle begins. So here is how you begin to live this truth, not just know it. First, when she doesn't call or message, resist the reflex, the instinct to chase, the urge to write, just to check in. That's the ego panicking. That's the child within you reaching for something to fill the emptiness. Instead, pause, close your eyes, breathe in slowly through your nose, hold for 4 seconds, breathe out through your mouth, like you're releasing something ancient. Do this 3 times. Now ask yourself, not with judgment, but with curiosity, what is her silence making me feel? Abandoned, rejected, unworthy? Whatever answer arises, welcome it, like an old teacher returning to the temple. Now take this feeling, and do something radical. Sit with it. Don't numb it with scrolling. Don't drown it in texting others. Just sit. 10 minutes of silence a day. Call it your emperor's hour after Marcus Aurelius. Sit like a king returning to his throne. Not because his kingdom is perfect, but because he is ready to rule it again. Next, create a ritual. It could be journaling by candlelight. It could be standing barefoot under the morning sky. But do something each day that reconnects you with your own essence. Not your inbox, not your phone, not the outside world. Write in a notebook, "Today, I do not chase. I receive. I remember who I am." Say it out loud. Words have power, especially when spoken from the depths. Another practice, one from the Stoics themselves, is to visualize the worst-case scenario. Imagine that she never texts again. Imagine she moves on. Now breathe. Are you still here? Yes. Are you still standing? Yes. This is the power of premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of loss. You prepare the soul not to avoid pain, but to become unshakable within it. And here is where your life begins to change. Because the more you stop chasing others, the more you begin to attract your true path. Not just in love, but in energy, purpose, focus. Energy once wasted on anxiety becomes clarity. Nights once spent refreshing screens become evenings of calm creation. The absence of a message becomes the presence of your own voice. And here's a powerful truth. When you no longer need her message, that's often when it arrives. Not because you waited, but because you released. The universe responds not to your fear, but to your frequency. You must become the man who does not flinch in silence, the man whose soul is so full that no outside presence can complete him, because he is already whole. Lastly, serve. Channel your energy outward. Help someone. Build something. Pray if you're called. Fast if it grounds you. Walk in nature and whisper thanks to the wind. Use this space to elevate, not deteriorate, because your future self is watching you right now, wondering what you will do in this moment of silence. Will you spiral, or will you rise? The world needs more men who rise. And now we arrive at the edge of silence, not as victims of absence, but as witnesses of transformation. She didn't call. She didn't message, and in that space, you were given the most sacred gift of all, the mirror. Because what truly hurt wasn't the silence itself, it was what it revealed. The longing, the fear, the parts of you that still believed your value depended on another's attention. But here, at the end of this journey, something has changed. You've seen how ancient Stoics faced the void, not with panic, but with presence. You've learned that the absence of words is not the absence of worth. You've remembered that you are not a man waiting to be chosen. You are a soul remembering it was whole all along. Marcus Aurelius faced betrayal from his own son, loss of loved ones, and the weight of ruling an empire under siege. And yet, he wrote by candlelight, "Look well into yourself. There is a source of strength which will always spring up if you will always look there." This is your task now, not to win her back, not to decipher the silence, but to return to that well within you, to become still, to become vast, to become unshakable. And if one day she messages you again, you will not answer from the trembling hands of need, but from the calm of clarity. Not because you stopped caring, but because you started remembering. The world today is full of noise, men chasing illusions, hearts looking outward for what they already carry within. But not you, not anymore. You have walked through the fire of no reply and found your soul on the other side. This is the essence of Stoicism, not to numb, but to awaken. not to detach, but to ascend. So the next time silence finds you, whether from her, from the world, or from fate itself, remember this: you are not here to beg for love. You are here to become it. To the man still checking his phone, I offer one final whisper. She may call, or she may not, but your soul is calling now. Will you answer? If this message stirred something deep inside you, if you felt the truth rising like a forgotten flame, type in the comments, "I remember who I am." And if you believe more souls need to hear this, like the video to help it rise through the noise. Let this not be the end, but the beginning of your return, because real power begins in the silence.